Have you ever resized an embroidery design and had it come out looking nothing like it did on your screen? Maybe the stitches bunched up, the outlines didn't line up, and the thread kept breaking halfway through. That's because you can't just scale a design up or down without making the right changes first. My name is John Deere, and I've spent over 40 years creating embroidery designs for brands like Coca-Cola, the NHL, and more than a dozen Fortune 500 companies. I've trained thousands of embroiderers and fixed resizing mistakes that most people don't even realize are caused by not knowing how to edit the design. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to resize embroidery designs the right way, whether you're making them bigger or smaller so they stitch out exactly the way they should the first time. When it comes to resizing designs, the first thing you need to know is that not all embroidery formats are the same. Each of them is slightly different in different ways, keeping in mind that all designs are created in a native format, and that is the software in which you created the design. The design that you can see on screen, I actually created, and I sequenced the objects in such a way so that I know I'm going to get good quality results, the registration is going to be correct, and I made sure that with regards to all of the properties in the design, I used the right properties and the right settings so that I would get a very clean design that is nice and flat and smooth and not stitch intensive, and I'll get good quality results. So this is the native file format, and in our software, the EL Digitizer, the native format is JDX, and that's why it's always important with whatever software you own to make sure that if you create something in that program, you save the native file format, because all of the original information is actually embedded in that file, and it will be the best one to edit or resize to get good results. I see that question over and over again be posted all over social media. How much can I resize a design safely? And I see all kinds of different answers, anywhere from up or down 10%, 5%, to 20, 30%, to it really doesn't matter. And the truth is, none of them are correct because it really depends on the type of file that you're trying to manipulate and who digitized it in the first place. Did they do it correctly? Did they do it properly? If you want to resize designs, you need to have a foundational base in theory. Whether you're a digitizer or whether you're a person who just wants to edit a design, you still need that same foundational information. Now, the first example I'm going to give you is resizing a native file format, which in this case is JDX. I created this design. It actually stitched out perfectly at the size I created it at, and now I'm going to resize it and make it bigger. Keeping in mind that a JDX file cannot be read by any machine. You can't load a JDX file into your machine, press the start button. It will not go because it is specific to the software. That's what it's meant for, and that's why you are going to edit your designs with the native file format. I then save out my file to a machine file format, which the machine will read, and that'll vary on your brand of machine. Now, here's where theory comes into play, because even though I'm dealing with a native file format, I have a very, very thin pink outline on these petals of this rose, and they are probably about 1 millimeter, 1.5 millimeters blending into the next color. So I really wouldn't want to try to make this design any smaller, even though it's a native file format, just specifically because of that one, object within this design. If I did want to make this 10% smaller, I might have to go in and exaggerate the pull compensation of that color to make sure that I can still see it when it actually does reduce in size. So knowing the minimums and the maximums of your stitches and what is and isn't possible with embroidery is the first step. But taking this design that I digitized and knowing that I would want to resize it in the future, I'm going to select this design. I'm going to select the entire design, and I'm going to go to the properties, and I'm going to go down to transform. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do almost the unthinkable. I'm going to take this design and I'm going to take it at 5.1 inches in height. So that is the height of this design. I'm going to double it in size. I'm going to make it, from 100 to 200% bigger, which is normally unthinkable. So there's 10.2 inches, and I'm going to just hit that enter button, and boom, the software does all of its recalculations, and I can see now that the design is actually done at that size. It's now 72,000 stitches. It was, I think, around 28,000 before, but it took this design and it blew it up twice the size, and I did run a sample without making any changes whatsoever. So this design now is twice the size. I can see that I took it from here to here, and it is perfect. I didn't have to make any adjustments, and everything lined up 100%. So if you know what you're doing and you know how to digitize and you have the theory, you can create a design, and keeping that in mind, you can do what most people would think is impossible and resize it at the click of a button. Now, in the next example, I'm going to show you an expanded file format. So I saved it out as a PES file, which does actually retain all of the color information. So at least I'll see the colors within the design. But when I go to load this back up, I'm not going to load in the actual JDX file. So I'm not going to load in the native file format. I'm going to bring in the PES file, and I'm going to not convert it to outlines. And what that means is if I just bring it in exactly the way it is, it will bring it in as stitches. So now I have a design that looks exactly the same. It's the same size. And if I sew it on the machine, I'm going to get the exact same results. And this does have, as I mentioned, about 28,000 stitches in it. So this time, taking this expanded data design, this is like a DST file, and I could safely increase this maybe by 10% and run it on a machine. Or just take it in the software, blow it up 10%, and I should be able to safely run this on a machine. The integrity should be good. And that's usually what happens when people take a design, put it on the machine, and try to blow it up. The stitch count stays the same, even though the size of the design increases. So if I were to take this object now and do the exact same thing where I'm taking the properties and I'm going from 5.1 inches and I'm going to go to 10.2 inches, what you're going to see is the design will resize, but it resized in such a way that it still has 28,900 stitches. And if you look at it, in some areas, I can see that the stitches have kind of disappeared. And I did run this on my machine. I ran it on our Tajima Sai machine, quality piece of equipment. And a lot of, I guess, home machines, what would happen in those areas where you see those areas where stitches disappeared, when it's out of 3D, they kind of look like staggered lines. What would happen is the machine would actually activate trimmers and you create invisible embroidery. Because the Tajima knew that it was still supposed to be stitches, it did retain that long stitch length, but it kind of really slowed down before it jumped in those stitches. The difference is this design here, when I look at it, this is the sewn result of this design. It's the same size, and it still looks kind of good, but the density is way down compared to the original. So the software did resize everything, kept the stitch count exactly the same, and this one has 28,000. This one obviously had an increased stitch count because it went into that native file format and adjusted all the properties based on the properties that were used within the original size file. Now in this next example, I'm going to bring in the same PES format, but I'm going to click a button within our software that says Convert to Outlines. And what's going to happen is the software will automatically calculate all of the objects that it sees, assign the stitch types that it sees, and recreate it so that it will have much better results than the last one, which just blew up the design and didn't change the stitch count. Now, some software programs will do this better than others. Our software is developed by the industry leader for innovation, Pulse Tajima. They are incredible, and they have given us the ability to take a expanded data format, bring it into our software. It takes a little bit longer to calculate, but now I can take this design, and when I grab that entire object and I go to the properties and I go to resize the design, I can do the same thing and go from 5.1 inches to 10.2. So I'm doubling the size of the design. And when it recalculates it, it's actually recalculating the design and all the data in it. Now, this is where having education is key and foundational, because to say that the software would do it as good as the original JDX file, I don't think there's any program in the world that would do it perfectly. So you're having an understanding of theory and stitch types and how and when to use them, that's when this really comes into play. Because I can take this design, which actually did do a great job in resizing it, but by looking at the stitch types, I can see that I need to go in and modify a couple things. The difference is, now I have 79,000 stitches there. The difference is now I can go into my sequence view and I can very quickly take the first color, which I see is this blue. I'm going to select all of the blue, and I can come in right now and say to the software that I want to do an auto split within the software, and I can do a random split and change this, the properties within the program so that it ends up giving me the desired effect that I want. So I can change this, from 0.1 to 0.5 millimeters. So I have no really short stitches. I can take this to 8 millimeters, and it's going to adjust all of those properties and objects. And anywhere that I see in the design that I need to make the necessary changes, I can just grab those colors, grab whatever objects I want, and redefine the stitch lengths. And after a few minutes of editing, I end up having a design that ends up looking like this. And this is the file that is a PES file that was converted to outlines, a few minutes of editing, and this is the original. And you can barely tell the difference between the two. I hope you can now see that resizing an embroidery design the right way is more than just dragging a corner or typing in a new value and hoping for the best. It's about understanding what's exactly happening underneath the stitches. Once you have that theory, resizing isn't a gamble anymore. It becomes an opportunity to make your designs even better. That's exactly what you'll learn inside my fan-favorite Digitizer's Dream Workshop. In just 2 weeks, without leaving the comfort of your own home, you'll learn proven digitizing theory step by step so you understand how stitch types, density, and underlay behave when you resize designs. Create your own beautiful custom embroidery designs from scratch, and have the confidence to bring any idea to life exactly the way you envisioned it. Spot and fix bad designs instantly so you don't waste time and thread on flawed designs. Get personal guidance from me and my team in live webinars and a private support group. Use our powerful new EL software for 30 days so you can practice resizing, editing, and creating designs the right way. If you're a hobbyist, this will save you from stitch outs gone wrong and wasted materials. If you run a business, it'll protect your profits by eliminating costly production errors and keep your results sharp and professional. Thousands of embroiderers have completed this workshop, and the difference in their results is night and day. Now it's your turn. Seats are limited, and this workshop is sold out multiple times. Don't leave your embroidery quality to chance. Click the link below and learn more to take control of your designs today.